Guys, welcome back to HPL. Sjow and Ek0p are just about ready to get into game one. And I have to tell you, I think that these are going to be some very grueling games.
Absolutely. They're going to set the tone for the whole season of HPL. They're going to be the first people to fire off now. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of strategies they bring here day one, match one, as you said. It's going to be very interesting to see if they play, something a little more unconventional, kind of a crazy style to show their range and, make their opponent think about, man, this guy's capable of anything in any game, or are they going to stick to a lot of power strategies and just try to decimate their opponent that way?
Yeah, I think that's something that's definitely possible. Like you said, I mean, setting the tone here for HPL is a really big thing to do, because if you play something crazy in game one, now everyone knows that you can play something crazy. And again, these players don't have to bring a lineup of 3 decks or anything like that. They can play whatever they want. Guys, game one is ready. Get out there on Twitter, use that hashtag HPL. Let everyone know who you're supporting. And right now, we're getting into game one.
All right, it looks like Ek0p is going to queue up a Druid deck here, and Sjow's going to have what appears to be Freeze Mage. That is a Frost Nova in his hands.
Yeah, this has got to be Freeze Mage. I mean, Pyroblast, one of those very big indicators that you're playing Freeze Mage, along with Frost Nova, of course. And Ek0p going with Druid here. Traditionally, I would think that Druid has a little bit of an advantage in this matchup. It's just got so many powerful cards, and it's got that very dangerous 9-mana turn with Force Nature and Savage Roar.
Yeah, and speaking of big, powerful cards, he already has a Wild Growth in his opening hand. Every Druid player in the world gets a grin on their face when that happens.
Yes, sir, it does. Even better when you have it with the coin on turn 1, following into a Shade and Naxxramas after that. I think something that's going to be interesting here is whether or not he keeps this Emperor Thaurissan. Now, again, we talked about how Sjow really likes to play these control styles, and Freeze Mage very much in that same vein. You're looking to extend the game into the later turns, make sure you can get something like Alex Strauss on board, and then finish your opponent off with a lot of burn spells. So he is going to keep that Emperor Thaurissan, so I think Ek0p's read is on point right now.
Yeah, I fully expected him to keep the Emperor because it's such a good card against the Freeze Mage deck. Generally, your minions stay in play for a couple turns, even if they're not doing anything, and you're going to get value off of it throughout the game.
Yeah, the only thing I think that's interesting to note is that in the past, we have seen Sjow play a lot of Mech Mage. But again, Freeze Mage is right up his alley, so I cannot fault him for keeping this Emperor here, but certainly a little bit of a risk.
Yeah, I wonder if that's actually in the back of Ek0p's mind, seeing Mage out of Sjow, if he wonders if this is a Mech Mage deck that he's going to be playing against.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, he's going to be happy on turn 2 here with this hero power instead of any minions hitting the board. So right now, I gotta believe this is an advantage over to Ek0p right away.
Absolutely, and I think with him hero powering on turn 2, the cat's kind of out of the bag. He has to believe it has to be Freeze Mage here.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, unless it's got like a very poor hand with like 2 Spider Tanks in it or something, or maybe a Flamewaker Mage that just didn't draw any early action. That's really one of the only scenarios where this could be any sort of aggressive deck.
Yeah, actually a pretty good top deck from Sjow here. He drew an Arcane Intellect this turn, so if he didn't want to develop one of his early secrets, he could have actually drawn 2 cards there, but he's going to choose to gain 8 armor as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think at this stage of the game, it's a matter of just him making sure that this is extended as far as possible. Arcane Intellect, pretty much going to be good on any single turn that mana is getting floated. This is going to make sure this Ice Barrier gets underway, though, so if he draws a second copy of Ice Barrier, he can go ahead and play it straight away and not have to worry about it. So right now, tensions is going to build quickly when this Emperor hits the board, but until then, it's sort of a waiting game.
It's a pretty good hand for him to have an Emperor of 2. He's already got a Dr. Boom and a Ragnaros, 2 great cards.
Yeah, and he's also Wild Growth twice already.
No big deal. That Ragnaros, though, pretty good in this matchup.
Yeah, Ragnaros, I remember way back at Fight Night Reels, actually put a Polymorph into his Freeze Mage deck. Because Ragnaros was such a powerful card versus the strategy, he wanted to have that answer.
Now, Ek0p had a really, really good curve setup with turn 6 Emperor, turn 7 Dr. Boom, turn 8 Ragnaros, but he drew an Innervate this turn, and it looks like he's thinking about playing it and possibly playing Ragnaros now.
Ek0p knows exactly the threats that are most powerful in this matchup, and Ragnaros is definitely one of them. There is a ton of pressure on Sjow now, as El Señor del Fuego is going to rain down 8 points of damage upstairs every turn until it's dealt with.
Yeah, and you see that Sjow doesn't actually have a really good answer yet for Ragnaros, so it's very possible, and it looks like he's going to actually get in some more damage with it. Unless his Acolyte of Pain is randomly going to take 8 damage here.
Yeah, something else that's interesting to note, too, is even if Sjow in this position had something like Frost Nova Doomsayer this turn, there's still a 50% chance that that Doomsayer dies just from the Ragnaros, plus any other way that Ek0p may have to deal with it. So it really kind of demonstrating exactly how powerful this card is. And in this spot, I mean, this is a great turn for Dr. Boom. You have 7 mana and you have Dr. Boom in your hand. The question here is whether or not he's going to attack this Acolyte with his Shade, or whether or not he's going to go to face and see where this 8 damage goes afterwards.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say, I think he's gonna pick this off just to make sure that he doesn't get 2 draws out of this Acolyte of Pain. Anytime you can deny draws to the Acolyte of Pain for the Freeze Mage deck, it's big, and not to mention he gets the extra 8 damage in. He makes sure that the 8 damage goes to his face from Ragnaros.
Yeah, well, there's a Doomsayer. But that's a lot of stuff on the board. Again, a 50% chance it's going to die just to the Ragnaros. And then even if this Doomsayer goes off, the Boombots have potential to deal massive damage. On average, the 2 of them combined are going to explode for 5 points of damage total. So that's something else that Ek0p has going for him here. And he's also got an opportunity to draw some extra cards here now. I suspect he's going to draw a card with this Wrath.
Yeah, you absolutely are going to see him cycle this Wrath here and try to find a silencer or an answer for this Doomsayer right away. Just what a great position to be in as the Druid player.
Yeah.
Your opening hand was just amazing in this match.
No combo pieces, though, so if this Doomsayer ends up going off, I mean, this could spell a little bit of trouble for him. So it's up to fate to decide this turn now. This Ragnaros shot is so important.
Yeah, 50-50 to end probably in the game right here.
It takes out the Doomsayer.
Wow.
It's not very often that killing minions against Freeze Mage is an important thing, but Doomsayer is certainly one that you want to put a notch in.
Yeah, and you can see Sjow is not very happy with this Doomsayer biting the dust there from Ragnaros. This Ragnaros has been on point this game for Ek0p.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very difficult and very dangerous turn for Sjow now. I mean, he's almost forced to Blizzard just to prevent damage from happening here, but once again, he's going to be taking 8 more damage from that Ragnaros.
Now, this Blizzard does set up a pretty decent Flame Strike turn next turn. He's going to be able to clear some of Ek0p's minions off the board, but not all of them. And Ek0p's actually going to draw 2 extra cards here, this Ancient of Lore, so he's going to have plenty of gas going forward in this game.
Yeah, minions attacking isn't really the strongest point right now. Again, Show's got another copy of Blizzard in his hand, but it looks to me like Ek0p just drew lethal, and he's just going to go ahead and finish this game off. I mean, he could have Ancient of Lore and draw 2 more cards and see where it went, but Ragnaros just going to finish it. So Ek0p going to take a very decisive game 1 on the back of an extremely strong draw. 2 Wild Growths and an Innervate, and able to keep his mana utilization high throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah, drawing that Innervate, letting him Ragnaros a turn, like 2 turns early that game was absolutely huge. Ragnaros did a ton of damage that game, and you got to wonder what decks are they going to pick for their second game here. Yeah,
I mean, this is, again, I kind of expected Sjow to play something in the vein of a control deck, so very not surprising to see him play Freeze Mage. And Ek0p, you know, he can go either way. I would say he tends to play control decks, but the fact that he's used Druid here really kind of showing that he understands where Show's style lies. Druid traditionally can do pretty well against control decks. When you have stuff like Wild Growth, when you have stuff like Innervate, your draw density remains so high that you continue to draw cards that keep your mana utilization high, and that's a really big key. That's a very key point for him in that game particularly.
Well, I mean, his draw looks just absolutely perfect to that game. He had the early Wild Growth, he had the Innervate on the turn that he needed to Ragnaros early, we mentioned. I mean, I don't think he could have drawn it up better against a Freeze Mage deck.
It's pretty difficult too. I mean, again, the double Wild Growth and just on point with the Ragnaros that one. It's just, I mean, lights out for Sjow in that game. But guys, they're making changes to their decks right now, making sure they're picture perfect for game 2. When they're done and they're ready, we're gonna come back for game 2 here, guys. Don't go anywhere. Get out there, use that hashtag HPL, let everyone know who you're supporting, what you wanna see, and what you think they're gonna play. Don't go anywhere, because you're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.